All right, and welcome back to episode 64 of the Alec Frengos show, or now better known as Read the Game podcast with Alec Frengos. And I come back off not filming a lot with something a bit more fresher or something new, just because I've been away from doing videos for a while, and I've thought that I want to do something a bit more consistent and a bit more cleaned up. So I come back with a fresh name, still same show, same everything. You're going to still see the same people, but I wanted to come on here first just to say that I've kind of switched things up a little bit. I've just made the show a different name, a bit more catchier, and I'm going to try to make this a bit bigger podcast for people watching and obviously people that are involved with it. All my friends that like to come on the show as well. But just for today, we're going to go through most of the sports headlines that's been going on recently in the past couple of weeks. And throughout the summer, I'm obviously going to have lots of people on. I'm going to have Adam come on, obviously talk basketball and football. We'll have Joey, Jay, Ryan, Wyatt, Carter, all of the other people that have been usual suspects on this show. But today, I just wanted to come on here as a little bit of a fresh start to go over some headlines recently in sports, because I talk about sports every day to my friends, my family, but I feel like having this platform and having this podcast set up, it's a bit more nicer where I can kind of have a platform of what I feel is going on during these sports events and stuff. And my whole life is sports, so I'd like to share it with social media and see if I can create more of a bigger platform, and I'm sure my friends would like to obviously have their opinions out there too. So we'll see what happens with this. We're going to have some fun with this, but we're going to get a bit into here. We'll start with the NBA. We'll start with the big one. Giannis Antetokounmpo was recently traded. As a Greek, I'm happy for him that he wants out, but the trade was a big one. Pat Riley pulls the trigger on finally getting a big-name Heat player to Miami. They gave up Tyler Hero. They gave up Casper Jokinchantis. I don't know if I can pronounce that right. Hami Hawkes, Khalil Ware, a big upcoming star in the NBA. And they kind of got their whole team to bring in Giannis Antetokounmpo and Bobby Portis. And for me, instantly, I don't like the trade, and the more I think about it, I hate it even more, because you've got somebody like Giannis Antetokounmpo coming who hasn't been fully healthy his whole career besides the championship run. He doesn't have a good supporting cast to try to beat a team like the Celtics, which we're going to get into later, a Knicks, a maybe Philadelphia 76ers, even the Toronto Raptors maybe, depending on what they do, which we're also going to talk about later. So for me, they've got Giannis Bam, and then they've got Bobby Portis, they've got Nikola Jovic, they've got Davion Mitchell, and when I was watching the draft confuses me as always. We think they select Nate Ahmet with the 13th overall pick. Little do I know that that trade was also involved in Giannis, and Nate Ahmet goes to the Bucks. So for me, it's going to be hard for the Heat. Norman Powell is an unrestricted free agent. Andrew Wiggins is a player option of $27 million. I think he's easily worth $35 million a year in the NBA with how today's salary works. So it's going to be interesting for how the Miami Heat are going to be able to handle this. They're going to have to pull some free agents. They're going to have to get Norman Powell back. They're going to have to get a point guard to help run the offense. So the Heat, it's tough. They're in a very, very tough situation because Pat Riley, he obviously gets the big name to get people into the seats to watch Giannis Antetokounmpo. But for me, I think the Bucks win this. They get 2 picks in the first round, Nate Ahmet and Braden Burries, to set the future. They get Tyler Hero, who can be an all-star caliber player if given the keys. Khalil Ware has been very good for the Miami Heat since he got drafted. And you give up, I'm just going to call him Casper from now on because I don't want to butcher his last name, the guard out of Illinois. He's a rookie this year, and you automatically ship him off. Does he really have to be in that deal? He could have maybe led your backcourt for the future, but The Bucks get the most out of this. Do I think this is the better package than Jaylen Brown and 2 firsts? Absolutely. You get picks. You get basically a whole starting lineup of high-end players. And who knows with Jaylen Brown? He's been a little bit cancerous to the Boston Celtics. What he said on social media, this is the most fun year, bashing the organization, saying all this stuff, and transitioning a little bit to Jaylen Brown. This isn't good for Jaylen Brown's personal agenda. I get Jaylen Brown. He's one of the best players in the NBA. He's the finals MVP. Do I think he's better than Jason Tatum? Even Tatum coming off the Achilles injury? No, I don't, because when he was shown to be a number one option, it couldn't even get them past the Philadelphia 76ers. And that's when it worries me. Jaylen Brown, are you the problem? And I don't want to bash him because he was one of my favorite players. He was my dark horse MVP candidate pick this year, which almost paid dividends because he came 6th in MVP voting, led the Celtics to the 2 seed. Who would have thought that, right? So, for me, I'm high on Jaylen Brown, but I think he's caused too many problems within that organization to be able to have another year in Boston. I think the Celtics are going to move off him. Where that's to, I don't know. Do I have a prediction yet? Honestly, I don't. I don't have a prediction on where Jaylen Brown's going to go because we'll see if the Celtics, what they can get out of it. They almost got Giannis for 2 firsts and Jaylen Brown. I don't think the Celtics want a bunch of picks for Jaylen Brown because they have a championship window right now. They just kind of put a little patch on their center position. Chris Cernak Jr. out of Houston, who's a great rebounder, a great center, can hold down the middle hopefully for the Celtics in the future. They want to get quality play if they're going to trade Jaylen Brown. And they're not ready to rebuild because they have Jason Tatum, they have Derek White, they have these guys, Peyton Pritchard, who are ready to play and win now. And the Celtics are left in a tough spot now because I don't think we're going to get to see another fully healthy year of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And the last time we got that, well, they were going to go down versus the Knicks regardless before Jason Tatum tore his Achilles. But I don't think we're going to get another sample of that. So it's unfortunate for Celtics fans, but as a Raptors fan, I don't know. Do we go after Jaylen Brown? Do we not? I don't think we have the package to do it. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. Moving on to another trade in the NBA, we've got LaMelo Ball. He's leaving the Charlotte Hornets, and they're sending him off to the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Minnesota Timberwolves are going to send Naz Reid 3 pick swaps, which I won't think will matter much because I think both teams are going to be in the playoffs. So it might move 3, 4, 5 spots here and there unless one team obviously goes to win the championship. But for me, it's very surprising seeing LaMelo Ball be moved by the Hornets after they've had their best year. I don't want to say in franchise history, but in a while that I can remember. They finally get the pieces together. They get LaMelo, they get Colin Kneppel, they get Brandon Miller, they get Miles Bridges, and then they have Moussa Diabate holding it down in the middle. It was a very good team, but we don't get to see where that starting 5 could go from there. And it's pretty disappointing for the Hornets to be in such a rush now that they have a good season to move off LaMelo, but they get Naz Reid in return. They give Colby White his 3-year, $74 million extension. Is it a win for both sides? I think you could say that if Colby White can be a good playmaking point guard for the Hornets, which I don't know. I don't know what type of offensive ceiling he gives them as a starting point guard for 82 games plus playoffs. But they've got the supporting cast. If Kneppel can emerge into a star, maybe it pays well. But looking at the other end of what most people are looking at, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they finally got a point guard, which they've been dying for the last, honestly, since the Anthony Edwards window. They've had Mike Conley, they've had Bones Highland, they ran Dosunmu at point guard, who recently got extended. But this T-Wolves team, I like it, but I think it's a little bit guard heavy. You trade Julius Randle. You obviously traded Karl Anthony Towns for him, which obviously didn't work out. You got fleeced. You got 2 second-round picks back for Karl Anthony Towns, theoretically speaking. Obviously, you have DiVincenzo, but he's on the shelf now until the playoffs minimum next year. So you've got LaMelo Ball, you've got Anthony Edwards, you've got Jaden McDaniels, you've got Rudy Gobert, and that 4 spot, to me, it's very open because you just have your guard-heavy team. You got Dosunmu, You still have Mike Conley. You have LaMelo. You have Anthony Edwards. Jaden McDaniels slides in at the 3, but you trade Naz Reid for LaMelo. You trade Julius Randle. I want to see what the T-Wolves can do here at their number 4, because Rudy Gobert, he's fine to hold down the paint, anchor that defense. And with Edwards and LaMelo, their defensive inconsistency, I think Gobert can hide that. And also Jaden McDaniels being able to guard number 1 options all the time because he's proven who he is. I want to see who the T-Wolves can get because they need another big man. They need either one to come off the bench, and then they run a small ball lineup with Dosunmu and Anthony Edwards at the 3, McDaniels at the 4. Or they gotta go out and get another guy, because I don't look at the T-Wolves right now as a championship team just because of their roster. I just do not see it at all. Because how far can LaMelo Ball take you? Is he really a player that gives you an immediate contention window? I don't think he does. Does he give you a higher regular season ceiling? For sure. Could they finish a top 3 seed? For sure, if they're a healthy regular season team. But I just do not know how high of expectations T-Wolves fans should have with this addition, especially giving up Naz Reid, who is one of your best bench players and one of your best floor spacers, honestly, because sometimes when Gobert was getting played off the floor, it's Naz Reid that plugged in there at center, and they ran Randall, Naz Reid, and then they had 5 guys who could stretch the floor there. So for me, it's a little bit concerning if I'm the T-Wolves. I think you need them to make a couple more moves for me to take them seriously. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see how the offseason shakes out, and we'll obviously talk about that a bit more down the line. Moving on to some more news here coming out today. Kawhi Leonard and our Toronto Raptors are interested in a potential reunion, and Kawhi would look to extend with the Raptors if given the chance. And I come across this news today in pure shock, honestly. Pure shock. And I had this conversation with somebody earlier today, and I think that Kawhi realizes that he made the wrong basketball move. Alec, what do you mean he made the wrong basketball move? What does that even mean? Well, I'll tell you what it means right now. Kawhi Leonard took the Raptors to the very first championship in franchise history, and it is still standing as their only championship in franchise history. And he decided a month and a half after that championship, or even maybe less, that he was going to go to the LA Clippers and Paul George was going to go there and team up with him. And we could have the whole conversation, but if they traded Siakam and Van Vliet, they could have had Kawhi, Paul George, and Westbrook all on the same team. Don't do that, because it's just not a realistic situation. Nobody would have ever pulled the plug on that, because the Raptors had one of the best foundations in the NBA. Why would they gut all of that for Westbrook and Paul George, who proved that Paul George's injury history won, and Westbrook, he's not one of the best playoff players, even though you still have Kawhi. That's besides the point. For me, Kawhi made the right family decision, if we're not speaking basketball, because you got to think, these players also have lives out of basketball. Kawhi Leonard has a wife. He has a family. He wanted to move to LA. He wanted to live a nicer life, better weather, better destination, keys to his own franchise, the Inuit Dome. They got the whole new building. Steve Ballmer, one of the best owners in sports, takes care of his players, the whole deal. But Kawhi now realizes, if I stayed in Toronto, maybe I could be a top 10 player of all time if they get another championship and he has another finals MVP, and this is consistently a contending team. Because if Kawhi stays, we're talking OG Anunoby did not play one game of the Raptors 2019 playoff run. Not one game. You're talking about Lowry stays, which he was falling off a little bit, but then you plug in Van Vliet. You still have Danny Green for a couple more years. You have OG, Siakam, and the pieces and pieces. Norman Powell. You had Marc Gasol for a couple more years. Serge Ibaka for a couple more years. You run this whole team back. The Raptors in the bubble, they had the whole team but Kawhi Leonard, and they took the Celtics to the Game 7 in the conference semifinals, I believe, because then the Heat beat the Celtics to go to the finals. So for me, it was disappointing as a Raptors fan, obviously. But you come to the point now, none of this would have happened. We would never have Scottie, et cetera, but I would probably prefer a championship or two more over having Scottie, as much as I love Scottie. But now we face the reality where it is Kawhi Leonard could potentially come back and team up with Scottie Barnes, and maybe with a couple years left of Kawhi, we have one more championship run, and maybe the biggest story in sports history if Kawhi can come back and lead the Raptors to another championship. So let's dive in a bit more, and we're going to have this conversation with others that join the show in the coming weeks. If obviously a plug is not pulled to trade for Kawhi and there's still speculating rumors, what is the ideal package for the Toronto Raptors to give the Clippers where they're satisfied and we get a return where we can have a championship window? Because I don't want this where we got our whole roster for a 34-year-old turning 35 superstar and it all goes to shit just because he's aging. We gutted our whole roster. We're expecting too much from him. He's not fully healthy. This is my scenario, and if we can't do it, so be it. We can't have the reunion with Kawhi. We've got a couple offers here that I'd like to mix in. The focal point of the trade would either be RJ Barrett. Sorry, Canadian Raptors fans, if you love him. He has to go if you want to get Kawhi, or the flip side, Brandon Ingram. And I'm going to look at this from the Clippers standpoint first. The Clippers have Darius Garland. I believe they have Benedict Mathurin. They have a couple other young pieces, and they just recently drafted Keaton Wagler out of Illinois. A lengthy, little bit skinnier frame guard / forward. So that's a number 4 overall pick. That's a very, very high-end pick for the Clippers. Or number 4 or number 5. I can't remember. Anyways, we give them Barrett, a very high-end role player, or we give them Ingram, another scorer next to Wagler, Garland. Garland can play, make a little bit. And we toss in Grady Dick, who's been underachieved in his career in Toronto, to be honest. I know a lot of Raptors fans are not happy about him, including myself, because he's been a huge letdown. He hasn't been able to shoot the three. He doesn't play defense at a high rate. And he's just been underwhelming since the get-go. So Barrett or Ingram, you can intertwine either, whatever the Clippers want more, whatever satisfies them more. Can't give 2, can't give none, because that's just not how it's going to work. And for cap reasons, I think hopefully the Clippers will take on the contract. We throw in Jakob Poeltl to the Clippers. I don't know if they'll want to take that contract because it's one of the most immovable contracts in NBA history, and I don't really want to get going on Jakob Poeltl because I've hated this for so long now. But hopefully that changes and he's not on the team come October. But we get Grady Dick out, we get Ingram or Barrett out, we get Jakob Poeltl out, and we could throw in a first round pick. We can go unprotected next year because if we get Kawhi, you're looking at a pick 21 to 30 potentially on what happens. Excuse me. So we get Kawhi in return, and then we'd probably want like another piece, like when we traded for Kawhi with Danny Green, we'd want maybe like a Bogdanovich, we'd maybe want a Brook Lopez, so we get a center in case. So now you look at the Raptors starting lineup. Let's just say hypothetically we trade Brandon Ingram instead of Barrett. We've got Quickly at the 1, Barrett at the 2, Kawhi at the 3, Barnes at the 4, and I like starting Murray Boyles at the 5 because Barnes and Murray Boyles, they can get in there and rebound. Kawhi's a good rebounder, Barrett's a good rebounder. I'm fine. We're fine with that. Murray Boyles is going to take a huge step. Off the bench, we have Bogdanovich. We have Jacoby Walters. We have Jamal Shed. Now you're looking at a team that's like, we didn't give up too much. We're ready to contend, barring health. And maybe you look to get, if we can't get like a Brook Lopez or Bogdanovich in the trade, we look in free agency and we say, hey, Murray Boyles, he was unbelievable last year. We trust him to start at center, but we need a guy that can just split minutes with him and get us rebounds, finish putbacks, score maybe 8 to 10 points a game because obviously Kawhi, Quickly, Barrett, Barnes, they're going to be able to do all the heavy offensive lifting. Let's go Isaiah Hartenstein. You just got replaced by Mara, who just came out of Michigan. They got Chet. They got Jaylen Williams with a Y. They're good. They don't need Hartenstein. He's on a club option. Maybe they let him go. He tests free agency. We get Pirtle off the books. We say, come on in, Isaiah Hartenstein. We're not going to give you a huge deal, but if you want to play consistent minutes, he can even start over Murray Boyles. You come in, you're going to rebound for us. You're going to hit that vintage push shot. You're going to do whatever. Or Jackson Hayes, listen, you were very good for the Lakers last year. Some would say you're better than DeAndre Ayton last year. You can come in, 2 to 3 to 4 year contract, grab us some rebounds, put back some alley-oops, create some offense with Jamal Shed off the bench, and you can play a big role on a team that's looking to win a championship. We're going to get better minutes from Jacoby Walter, who looked amazing near the end of last year. Murray Boyles was a rising star. Don't be surprised if he's all defense in the coming years. Amazing rebounder, shot blocker, steals. He really does it all. And hopefully can develop a little bit more of a three-point shot, because that would be huge for the Raptors. Because one thing about this team, if you're an avid watcher of the Toronto Raptors, you need guys that can space the floor on this team, because Scotty Barnes is not a consistent three-point shooter. RJ Barrett can be streaky at times. Quickly either catches fire or is 1 for 8 in the game. Kawhi Leonard, we know what he can do if he comes on this team. But at the end of the day, it's going to matter. What's going to matter is the package that we are willing to give the Clippers. And I trust Bobby Webster. He learned from the best, Masai Ujiri. Don't sell the farm. If you got to trade one of your big dogs and a couple other pieces, pull the plug. So I'm not worried what we're going to give back. If the trade doesn't happen, I think the Clippers are asking for a little bit too much. That's my personal opinion. Moving away from this, free agency, the Raptors, and in general, we're going to talk about more destinations for other players. LeBron James is an unrestricted free agent as of right now, because Austin Reeves just got extended. They're still negotiating through here what the best option is for LeBron James. But for the Raptors, they've never pulled the big free agent. They just got to get guys who can play the role. That's it. Play a role on this team, and you're welcome in. We're not going to get LeBron James. Let's be realistic. But if Kawhi wants to come back to Toronto, we got to find a way to pull the plug, because we're not getting over the hump with this team as it stands right now, and especially with one of Quickly's contract or Pirtle's on the books, we're not free to make any moves. So we got to free up one of those contracts. And if there's another situation where, let's just say hypothetically, Jaylen Brown comes to Toronto, we got to move quickly. We got one of those contracts have to come off the books. Barrett's on a little bit more of a team-friendly deal. And sorry, to add to this team, Alan Graves, the new draft pick of the Toronto Raptors, sorry for not mentioning you. He comes in, and now we're looking at Quickly, Barrett, Kawhi, Scotty, Murray Boyles, Walter, Shed, Jackson Hayes, Bogdanovich, Alan Graves. Now we have, these are 2 full hands, 10-player rotation of guys that are legitimate NBA players. Alan Graves, I'm sorry I didn't touch on this, the Raptors pick. I saw the pick and I'm like, damn, another 6'8" forward, whatever, two-way per usual. Last Raptors 10 draft picks, it said two-way. I like this pick a lot. Lengthy forward, catch and shoot 3. His tape reminds me a lot of OG Anunoby. Lengthy forward, catch and shoot, good defense, good hands. I like it. I like it a lot. And for this team, if he can provide a role next year or the coming years, it's going to look good in Toronto. I just want to see, because with this team with Quickly and Pirtle both on this team, I think most Raptors fans are in consensus agreement. It's not going to work. So we'll see what the Raptors, the moves they make further down the line. We obviously got the Ingram jersey there. That one might have to be tucked away in the corner if he's traded, but we'll see what happens. And Raptors could be back in contention. Let's see how we'll be talking about them in a year from now, depending on what happens. Let's move a little bit here to the NFL. Let's talk a little bit about the situation that unfolded last night out of Detroit and Terrion Arnold. I'll read this headline out of shock. Terrion Arnold is facing up to life in prison for pistol whipping, kidnapping, and assault on somebody who rented his Airbnb. And somebody in the comments could correct me if I'm wrong on this story, but I believe somebody rented his Airbnb that he owns, stole property of his in the Airbnb. And what did Terrion Arnold decide to do? He decided to slide back to him, pistol whip him, kidnap him, assault him. This is all alleged, by the way, as Arnold's attorney says. So this is a very interesting situation for not only Arnold but the Detroit Lions, because he's one of those young, promising players on that defense. And let's be honest, the Lions don't have much on defense. They haven't for the last 4 to 5 years. It's just been that offense carrying them. And for somebody to be accused of something of this, obviously everything is alleged. Nothing's confirmed. Trial awaits. And Terrion Arnold, this is a very, very bad look, especially if it's true, because there's a lot of these guys in the NFL now, and there's just very, very poor decision making. And I feel bad. Jay, Lions fan, been on the show 10, 20, 30 times maybe. He'll probably tell you too that it's very stupid. But guess what? Some of these guys have just become out of control. And speaking of out of control, Mr. Sorsby, the quarterback at Texas Tech, I believe. He was gambling on his own games, and he thinks he can just walk right into the NFL. He gets cleared. He wins against the NCAA. He was going to go back and play, but wait, the supplemental draft. He goes in. NFL says, nope, no supplemental draft. You're going to have to wait till the 2027 draft. And there's a lot of people speculating, oh, wow, this guy could have been a first-round pick this year. He still might be a first-round pick next year in 2027. For me, my personal opinion, if you are confirmed betting on your own games, win or lose, you can't do that. That's illegal. And he said, but the team didn't help me stop this and that. Once the team found out, you should be kicked off the team immediately. I don't know what this is here of, oh, we're going to give this guy a little bit of a break just because the team didn't help him. And now Sorsby's, his lawyer, they're going to fight against the NFLPA saying you can't just cancel the supplemental draft just because there's an investigation going on or what you think he did is wrong. Absolutely they can, because that is so wrong. So for me, I don't know, that's a weird situation. I guess we're going to have to see how this unfolds in the next coming years, because he won't be playing college. He won't be playing in the NFL. Maybe XFL, UFL this year, then declare for the draft. We'll see. He'll have to be very, very good in one of those side leagues in order to declare, because if he's average there, he'll just go undrafted. Moving away from that, let's move to a couple trades that have happened closer to 2 to 3 weeks ago. Let's start with the big one. Myles Garrett finally gets out of Cleveland. He gets traded to the Rams. Jared Verse, picks. Let's look at this from the Rams standpoint first. This might be one of the best teams we've ever seen on paper in the NFL. You've got maybe the best defensive player of all time. Sack record, defensive player of the year, carried this Browns team for years. Finally goes to a team with electrifying offense, top 5 coach, top 5 management, top 5 destination to play. Devontae Adams, Puka, Kyron, good O-line, reigning MVP QB. Byron Young, Trent McDuffie. This team's loaded. For me, I think it's going to be very hard to not pick the Los Angeles Rams to win the Super Bowl. That's my personal opinion. From the Cleveland standpoint, Jared Verse. Guys, Jared Verse is no scrub. This is a future all-pro player that can help lead this Browns defense for years to come, and especially a team that's rebuilding. They get Garrett back for another fringe superstar. Browns fans, don't be disappointed in this trade package. He's very, very good as well. He's one of my favorite players on tape. He's a playmaker. He blocks field goals. He'll sack the QB. He'll strip sack the QB. He'll force fumbles to running backs. He'll do everything you want. And if I'm a Browns fan, it sucks to see Myles Garrett go probably, but at the end of the day, you got an excellent player in return, and you got picks. But the Rams, they live and die by F them picks, and I think it's going to pay off again. I think I see another Rams Super Bowl in the future. I honestly thought they were going to win maybe this year, but the Seahawks came out on top over the Rams in the NFC. Speaking of Super Bowl, moving to the other trade, my Patriots get A.J. Brown. How do I feel about this? I feel great about this. But why? He's a diva. He's washed. He's getting old. All you need is a fresh start sometimes, and that's what A.J. Brown's going to get. He didn't have a good offensive coordinator. He didn't have a good QB to consistently get him the ball. Jalen Hurts is a Super Bowl MVP. Let's not discredit him too much here, but that was heavily driven by that Kellen Moore system to lead them to the Super Bowl. Saquon, Kellen Moore, Hurts, AJ, Smitty, Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson. The names don't end. Landon Dickerson. With an all-time defense. To an Eagles standpoint, do I think Devonta Smith is a wide receiver 1? Absolutely I do. And I think he's going to be able to show that this year. I expect him to get 1,200 to 1,400 yards this year. A.J. Brown, this is the first time he's had an elite QB, elite passing QB, I'll say. I expect A.J. Brown to be top 5 in the league in receiving yards, catches, touchdowns. I expect him to be top 5 in all those categories because he's going to be the focal point of the offense. Hopefully we can run the ball a bit better with Ramondre, and hopefully Travion Henderson takes a step up. The defense, we know what the defense is. And you got a lot of good complementary receivers beside him. Newly acquired Romeo Doubs, very good wide receiver too, as proven. Mac Hollins, Demario Douglas, Kayshon Boutte, etc., etc. So there's going to be guys that are going to have to step up for A.J. Brown some games when he's being blanketed or he's having a bad game. And we do have the guys to be able to step up, because I think one thing about this Patriots team, whenever somebody is having a down game, other people find a way to step up for them and keep it moving. That's what happened in the playoffs too. Our offense wasn't having that good of a game against the Chargers. Defense shut it down. Offense didn't have another good game against the Chargers. Defense shut it down. Special teams comes into play. So I'm very excited for this Patriots team. Do I think they can win the Super Bowl? Absolutely I can. I do think they can. Do I think it's going to be a cakewalk? No, I don't. I think the favorites are the Broncos once again with Bo Nix. Hopefully that ankle's healthy for the sake of him and Broncos Nation, or Broncos Country as people like to call it. But I like them if he comes back healthy. I think that would have been a much closer game with us against them in the AFC Championship if they had him. You got to look at the Bills still. You got to look at the Ravens. You can't write the Chiefs off. Mahomes coming off an ACL, even though I think people think Mahomes is done, which is a very egregious take. And it's very uneducated, I'd call it. I'd call that take very uneducated if you think Mahomes is done. But listen, that's just my opinion on that. Moving over to the last kind of thing I want to touch on here, the World Cup. Canada, for the second time ever, 2022 and then now, is in the World Cup. And for the first time ever, we won our first game. And for the first time ever, we're advancing out of the group stage. And we've been riddled by injuries a little bit. Ismail Kone, goes down. Out for the tournament. Out for 5 months. Get well soon, obviously. Stefan Estacio. pulls up on his calf in training, or late in that Qatar game, I believe he was cramping. And we face our first knockout game against a team in South Africa who I don't think is that good. I think that's a very, very winnable game for Canada. Hopefully Alphonso Davies can come back healthy. Hopefully we can get some goals from Jonathan David. So let's hope it all plays together for Team Canada. But looking at the World Cup in a much broader standpoint, this has been one of the best World Cups that I've ever watched. I've watched 2014. Excuse me. I've watched 2018. I watched 2022. Now I'm watching 2026. And to see guys like Vinny, Ronaldo, Messi, Mbappe, Haaland all step up, it's so enjoyable to watch, because these are why these fans pay thousands of dollars for tickets to see their favorite player play. This is why we all sit down at, whether it's 1 p.m., 3 p.m. at home, to watch these superstars play. And it's paying off big time, because they're all delivering. One of the best golden boot races ever. And who's my pick to come out of it? Like I've said, even pre-tournament, I've got France winning it all. Do I think it's a lock? I think it's very, very likely to happen. I'm not going to say it's automatic, but they look like the best team, clearly. Let's just hope Canada can get past South Africa, and then we either play Netherlands, Japan, or Morocco, I believe. Depends what shakes out tonight. So that's everything for this episode 64. We're going to be back soon with some more content and some more highlights. And make sure you follow on Twitter. Make sure you follow on Instagram. Make sure you follow on TikTok. All is linked in the YouTube profile in the bio. And we'll see you guys for the next episode.